Welcome to my podcast, What the Fuck, Spirit. If you made it past that name, this is going to be the podcast for you. This is going to be a no holds barred, no bullshit, open and honest conversation with Maria Leggett, and that's me, about all things spiritual. It's time to begin talking in an open and honest way about what spirituality is and what it is not. We're going to discuss all things woo-woo, witchcraft, medium versus psychic, energy healing, light work, shadow work, and any other bullshit that people want you to believe because it keeps them comfortable. It is time for you to grow. Let's go.
Welcome to the year 2026, where apparently the lesson is you knew what to do the first time and you're choosing to try to do 10 million other things instead. And I say all of that because I've recorded this podcast in full 3 times prior. And each time I used a microphone where I was trying to be lazy and not whip out the big expensive microphones. I'm like, I can prove this. We can use the cheap stuff. However, the problem was that the audio sounded like shit when I tried to edit it. And so we let that go. And now we're using the right microphone. It's all good. So this episode is all about how rest is not lazy. It is rebellion against burnout culture, because burnout culture is a real thing. And I hit my burnout culture starting in October, and it did not get any better until I was flat out exhausted by the end of December. And I had to learn the hard way again that I heard Spirit going, you need to rest, you need to rest. You know what happened last time. And so here I am now fully resting because I'm exhausted and I'm tired of being exhausted. So that means that it's really important that I start taking time for me. And what that means is last year, middle of the year, I put in a day off. That is my day to do whatever I want to do. And instead of doing whatever I wanted to do, I wound up using Mondays to go and help my mom or go out and see a friend or go out and do things. And to me, that's not a day off. I need the completely down day where I can just do nothing, sit in my pajamas and act like the outside world doesn't exist. That to me is rest. However, because I was raised by a single mom who had to work all the time in order to be able to support us, I grew up with a work ethic of I had to bust my ass basically 24/7. And unfortunately, I have passed that on to my son, who also works that long as well. He works very long hours. And when I said to him, baby, why do you work so much? He goes, well, Mom, I'm just doing what you taught me. If I want something done, I have to do it myself. Ouch. That got slapped in my face. And I went, oh, okay. So I taught my son burnout culture, which is really unfortunate. And my kids don't listen to my stuff, so I don't need to worry about him listening to this podcast. But if he did, I love you, baby. I'm sorry I taught you that crap. So we are going to talk about right out of the gate how rest is not lazy, rest is not quitting, and rest is definitely not falling behind. I have a lot of students for some of my classes that are self-paced. They'll email in their homework, and they're like, oh, I'm so behind. No, you are not behind. Life gets in the way, and I understand that. Spirit understands that. When you don't take time to rest, your body is going to start falling apart. And that comes out as exhaustion, fogginess, you're emotionally fried, or your body just hit the brakes and didn't ask you permission to do so. When that happens, this is your spirit team and your nervous system telling you, hey, we're nearing shutdown, out of fuel. Think of it very much like your fuel tank throwing on the empty. That's your red flag throwing, saying, hey, it's time to rest. You need to refill your tank so that you can continue doing all of this wonderful work that you want to do without killing yourself. We need to remember that rest is rebellion from burnout culture. So today we're going to talk about why Spirit's going to send shutdown messages to your body when we ignore our bodies, and why burnout is not a badge of honor, especially not in the spirit world. Here is a truth that I want you to listen to. Whether you feel connected to Spirit or not, Spirit will always get your attention. If you don't listen to the whispers, it's gonna escalate. Your body is trying to shift and tell you every single day, hey, listen, I'm tired. There is a reason why other countries have a pause in their day, 2-hour lunches, or a siesta. I remember when we adopted our daughter from China, our youngest daughter, we were over there and we saw some girls walking around in their school uniforms, and it was like 5 o'clock. And so I stopped them. I said, do you guys speak English? They're like, oh, yeah, we could try our English on you. Absolutely. And so I asked them, I'm like, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Why are you guys just getting out of school? And they said, oh, because we have a break between, what did they say, between 12 and 2. So they get to school at 8 and they do schoolwork from 8 to 12. Then they pause. And then from 12 to 2, they're to go home, rest, relax, and then they go back to school from 2 to 5. And I was absolutely shocked that a school system, like we're taught that China's like hard ass and all these things. But I was there and I saw these children and they were like, it's the best thing for us because we get to go and rest. I mean, these were teenagers. They were like 16, 17. So I wasn't talking to little kids. And they get to go home and rest, which is what their body needs, right? And they told us, they expect us to learn and we have to memorize all this stuff. And how can we do it if we're tired? And I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Why don't we do that in the US? But we don't do that. We expect everybody to go full steam, right? We don't even have half-day kindergarten in most of the places anymore. You go from either home to a full day of kindergarten, which is a massive shock to a child's system. And we're teaching them that they have to learn by a core curriculum. So we are literally grooming children from the time that they hit kindergarten until they graduate from college, that you have to bust your ass and go nonstop. So we literally live in a burnout culture, and you take that into your job where they expect you to work, 6-7 days a week, but you're only paid for 5. That whole salary thing. People think, oh, it's great. It's salary. I make this much money. No. If you actually start keeping track of all the hours that you're putting in, you're not making $30 an hour. You're probably only making 15 because you're putting in a whole lot more than you think you are. Now, that being said, let's go back to why I created the podcast. Rest is not lazy. Rest is not quitting. Rest is not falling behind. Rest is rebellion. There's a reason why I call you guys sacred rebels. You're all my sacred rebels, right? I'm a sacred rebel because I am rebelling against the shit that I was taught and stepping into a spiritual system that I believe in, that I am comfortable with. So if you have been feeling exhausted, foggy, depressed, or like your body had just hit the brakes and it didn't say, hey, do I have permission to do this? Your nervous system and your spirit team is saying, hey, here's your red flag, slow the fuck down. Because if you don't, you're gonna hit burnout. When burnout comes, that is spirit and your nervous system sending you messages to say, we're gonna shut down, so you need to pay attention. We're gonna shut down, you need to pay attention. Those red flags are coming. They show up as slow whispers. And when you don't pay attention to the whispers, it escalates, becomes a scream, and bam, you don't have a choice. You have to stop because you need sacred rest. And why is it so damn hard for us to buy into sacred rest? Well, it's so hard for us to buy into sacred rest because we've already bought into the burnout culture. The burnout culture is just part of who we are. We have to work harder. We have to just push through this. It is a reason why We have drive-through mastectomies because this is what we do. Money is more important than anything else. It's more important than human rest. It's more important than a human healing. And we've all bought into this. I can't tell you how many times I said when my kids were little, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I would push myself until 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning. And then I would get up at 6 to get ready for work and to get kids ready and, go to the city and do all the things. And eventually it got to a point where I would sleep until the very last minute because I was exhausted all the time. It is not a case of you aren't doing enough. You are doing everything that you can, when you can, and with what energy you have left over. So somehow this whole burnout culture has also stepped into spirituality. And now it is ascend faster, heal quicker, meditate longer, be an evolved human being. What the fuck? Literally, what the fuck, Spirit? That's why I named this podcast that, because I can't tell you how many times I say in my head, what the fuck, Spirit? Where did this shit come from? The earth is seasonal. Therefore, your body is seasonal. Your body has cycles. When earth rests, you should start looking at resting as well. When the earth is in growth, that is an opportunity for you to be in growth. We just left the holidays. And because we've left the holidays, we are in a place of, I need to rest. I chose everybody else for weeks on end. Now it is my turn to be me and what I need. Spirit honors rest in your body the same way it honors action. Nature doesn't bloom year round, and neither do you. You do not have to be in a spiritual growth state all the time. You have to start slowing down. There's a reason why I don't go class heavy during the summer. I have decided that I am taking every other weekend off. Friday afternoon, Saturdays and Sundays, every other week during the summer, I'm gone. I am not answering the phone. I am not doing calls. I am going up to the camper. I'm hanging out with my camping friends. I'm heading to the pool. I'm spinning around in a golf cart, and I'm relaxing. That is important for me. That is my sacred rest. In fact, when we got up to the camper, I would go up to the campsite and I literally would go inside and spend the whole weekend inside. I didn't talk to any of our neighbors. I didn't anything. And finally, we got the camper in July of last year. And finally, around the end of August, beginning of September, my neighbors are like, hey, are you ever going to come out? And I'm always hesitant to tell new people what I do for a living. And I finally just looked at them and I said, look, here's the deal. I'm sure you guys are great people, but I need you to understand that I work with the public 6 days a week. I need to be able to shut down and just not talk to anybody and not feel like something is expected of me. And they're like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm a medium. And it turned into one guy, his grandma went to Camp Chesterfield. And so we had great, long, amazing spiritual conversations. So if I hadn't been honest and said, listen, this is just my place where I need to just, step away because I do spiritual shit for a living, I wouldn't have found any of this out. And now I find it so much easier because they're not asking me for readings. They literally just want me to sit and be their friend. And that is sacred rest for me. So let's talk about when the shutdowns come, because we've all been through the shutdowns. Spirit doesn't punish you by making you sick. Your body doesn't betray you by getting sick. Your body has been sending you subtle messages day in and day out for, hey, we need some rest. Are you going to rest now? Nope. Okay, then we're going to try it again tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. Hey, are you going to rest today? Nope. Okay, well, then let's try it again tomorrow. Eventually, you run out of tomorrows and your body goes, fuck it, I'm done. When your body says that, that is spirit going, fine. You didn't want to stop, so now I'm going to stop you. And this looks like sudden fatigue that doesn't get any better with sleep, brain fog, emotional numbness or irritability, getting sick out of nowhere. And by out of nowhere, I mean there's nobody else around you that's sick, but bam, you land in the bed for a couple of days. losing motivation for things that you normally love. All of this is your body's way of saying, hey, slow down. This is divine intervention. It's not somebody yelling at you. It's not anybody being mad at you. It is spirit protecting you from long-term damage. You are energetically, emotionally, and physically drained, and you need to find a way to become comfortable slowing down. Rest is sacred. This is not optional stuff here, everybody. This is not optional. Rest is not something you earn after you've proven your worth. No, you exist, therefore you are worthy of love. You exist, therefore you are worthy of sacred rest. You accepting the sacred rest is part of the work. In spiritual terms, rest is where you have integration. Rest is where your lessons land and the aha moments come. Rest is where the healing actually sticks. You don't download wisdom while you're bulldozing through life. You receive it in the stillness. This is why Spirit will say to you, meditate 10 minutes, 3 times a week. That's how you start to find sacred rest. When you rest without guilt, you are actively dismantling that system that you bought into of burnout culture, and you're realizing that your value does not come from your productivity. Your value comes from what you choose to bring in with your essence into the world. That is rebellion. That is sacred rebellion. And it's one of the reasons why I call you guys sacred rebels. We are here to buck the systems that we were taught that we no longer have to hold on to. If you are in a space where you're like, God damn, Shell, are you like living my life? Do you know me? This is me calling you out. This is Spirit calling you out through me. So if this episode is hitting a nerve, it's simply because you need permission to slow the fuck down. So we're going to repeat 4 sentences together, and I'm going to have a pause in between. You ready? Here we go. I am allowed to pause. Repeat that in your head or out loud. I am allowed to pause. I am allowed to cancel plans. I am allowed to do nothing without explaining myself. And that's a big one. You do not need to explain yourself. No is a complete sentence. N-O, no. If somebody expects an explanation, that is their problem, and you don't have to give it. Remember, we're no longer buying into the burnout culture, which says, well, if you're not going to do it, I need to know why. No, you don't. Here's the 4th one. I am allowed to listen when my body says enough. Spirit doesn't want you to push harder. Spirit is asking you to listen deeper. When you listen deeper to Spirit, when you get connected, you improve your life so much. One of the questions that I get asked the most is, I don't feel like I'm connected to Spirit. What am I doing wrong? Are you resting? Are you meditating? Well, no, I have stuff to do. All right, I'm going to call bullshit. I know damn well that each and every one of you listening to this can find 10 minutes out of your day, 3 times a week, to sit in the stillness. And stillness means you can put on music and nothing else and just sit. No interacting with anybody, no phones, no technology, just music. Or in the silence. That's how you connect to Spirit. When you are busy nonstop and you don't invite in sacred rest, you are not making room to hear Spirit. How are you going to hear whispers from your guides if you're not quiet? Everything suffers in your life when you don't make room for sacred rest. So if your body has been slowing you down lately, stop fighting it. Don't fight it anymore. Instead, ask yourself one of these 3 questions, or all 3 of them. What am I being protected from? Because you never know. What is your body saying, right? What needs integration right now? What lessons are happening that I need to integrate? And your last question could be, what would happen if I rested without shame? We have been shamed in this culture that resting is lazy, and that is not the case. Rest is not lazy. Rest is wisdom. It is protection. And most of all, rest is a connection with spirit. It's one of the most spiritual acts that you can practice in this world that is so addicted to burnout. No one can take care of your body except for you. You are here in this lifetime because you chose to be. You have lessons to learn and things that you need to do. So until you are ready to take your sacred pause, know that your body is going to be speaking to you. I want you to listen. Take care of your body. It is the vessel that you chose with spirit. If you consider yourself an empath and you have trouble setting boundaries with family members because you don't know how to say no, you don't know how to handle all the energy that's coming at you all the time, I have a class called Energy Armor. And Energy Armor is basically you learning how to set boundaries and filters with your clairsentience so that you stop taking on everybody else's shit because you don't need it. You have a hard enough time dealing with your own, never mind dealing with everybody else's crap. Energy Armor is going to help you to give yourself permission to rest. There is a whole entire curriculum based on teaching you boundaries with other people, boundaries with yourself, learning how to say no, and knowing that you don't have to continue taking on everybody else's junk. So if that's for you, head over to my website, learn.marialeggett.com. If you love this episode, send me an email at hello@marialeggett.com. Hey, I love this. Thank you. You can find me on social media in Rooted in Ritual with Maria. My podcast has a different name because, what the fuck, spirit. And I am on TikTok, I am on Instagram, and I am on Facebook, all as Rooted in Ritual with Maria. Until then, may you have everything that you need. Light in your life, food on your table, and